Hey, what's happening guys? You're here with Matt Stirling, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to build bigger arms faster. So I want to mention to you guys today about how we can build arms just simply more efficiently and do some movements that are going to be a lot more effective in your arsenal. So it's not going to be about just simply working hard today, but it's also going to be about working smart. I'm going to introduce to you today a few tips that you can implement into your training that are really going to just have you focus on the muscle a lot more. All right, we're going to give you these hot cues, and what I want you to be able to do with them is just simply implement them. Right, so you're going to walk away with some tools today. We're also going to touch on part of my talking today, but we're also going to touch on carbohydrates, a hot topic. And for myself today, I'm actually working out arms in the absence of carbohydrates. So for me, arms is actually one of my weaker body parts. So we'll talk about carb cycling and how on a weaker body part day, I would normally want to eat more carbohydrates. Why would I want to do that? Well, because it's my weaker body part. So it's a cool topic, you know, the topic of carbohydrates and building muscle. And today just happens to be building arms, right, in the absence of carbohydrates. So we'll just talk about that for a second. So why am I having no carbohydrates today, or pretty much lower carbohydrates? Well, for me, I'm 125 days out from the Musclemania Worlds in Las Vegas, so I'm super amped about that. The other side of it is that about 10 days ago, I just had my baby boy. So Damian de la Cruz Stirling. So he's got that Spanish flair. My wife is Ecuadorian. Her name is Nubia de la Paz Casada, so Stirling, of course. So with it being said, the reason why I mention that is because I've been a carb monster for probably the last 10 days, right? Because the in-laws are here and I'm just eating whatever they're putting in front of me because I'm not getting any sleep really. So why am I mentioning this? Well, because now today I'm starting to notice a little bit of fat spillover, right? Or spillover in general. So what does that mean? Well, I'm starting to put on a little bit of fat in a short period of time. So what I'm going to do now is just do some high volume work. I'm going to do some extended sets today, which you'll see through the arm workout, and just deplete my system for a few days of carbohydrates. And then I'm going to reintroduce them in a couple days' time, but I'm going to do it at the most opportune time. So this is kind of like a 1-2 punch video. It's not just going to be about building arms, but it's also going to have you make you a little bit more equipped with the nutrition side of it as well, right? A lot of guys are always putting out, videos on just how to build bigger muscles, or maybe just on the other side of it, the diet. But at the end of the day, you got to put both of them together. I think that's the really important part here, guys. You guys all know that, right? Everybody says it's 80% diet or whatever. I don't really think that you can put a number to it. At the end of the day, they can't exist without each other, right? So that's why I'm going to bring you both today. So the other thing is I want you to stay tuned to the end, right? We're going to get right into this workout, so don't go anywhere. We're going to go through probably 6-7 exercises, I think is what I have listed for you. But then I'm also just going to have a little gift for you at the end, right? So you don't have to worry about getting spammed or nothing like that. I'm just going to be giving you an ebook, a report, if you will, on the 7 ridiculous carb myths that are killing your gains, right? And it has a lot to do with what I'm talking about right now and how I'm prepping for the Worlds, right? How I'm eliminating carbohydrates for a few days and how I'm doing this crazy arm workout in the absence of carbohydrates. How does that make sense, right? So we'll touch a little bit more on that as we go. But let's get into the workout, and you can take away some tips today, and then afterwards we'll talk about some of the nutrition tips that you can take away as well. All right, so let's get to it. We just did a shoot actually live on Facebook, so my arms are a little bit fatigued, I guess, if you will. So this is like round 2 for me, so this is just to give you guys the information. It'll be good for me anyways to go through a second workout. But now we're going to do reverse curls, so check this out. I'm going to be manipulating my wrist here a little bit throughout the movement, where I'm going to be flexing the wrist and then keeping the wrist neutral. So first set of 10, I'm doing just that. I'm going to be having that flexion in the wrist. So if you were to flex your forearm right now, go ahead, do it. Just think about how am I going to flex this, right? I'm going to be doing this. So imagine I can shorten that up on the way up, right? So on the flexion of my bicep of my elbow, I'm going to be getting more of this happening, right? And then as I keep this neutral, I'm going to be getting more of that radial brachialis in there. So that's the second part of the movement that I'll be showing you, right? So check this out. Everything's aligned, right? 10 reps, getting that wrist flexion. Nothing's moving except for that elbow joint, and I'm still going to the extremes of the range of motion. with the curls, as I was going through the motion, you can see that as I was going through it, I was manipulating that wrist, right? So on the way down, I was here, going neutral, and getting that flexion all the way through as I came up at the top, right? And you gotta actually actively be working through the exercise and not just doing them like I showed you, but you gotta think about squeezing harder, right? So squeeze it like it owes you money. Literally think about it, every repetition that you're doing, you're squeezing the shit out of your muscle, all right? So let's go back into another set. So again, I come to the top of that movement, set my shoulders, keep my core tight, bring my arms back even slightly. You'll notice that angle. Right now, they're under tension, so they're starting to work, right? Here, there's nothing going on. So I bring them back, tension, they're activated. And now just think about bringing my fist towards my shoulder. The more I can do that, the bigger the stretch. You'll notice that the biggest thing I'm trying to do is go through a full range of motion. So when it comes to building bigger arms faster, it's not about how much you're moving, because you'll see me today at some points probably using some light weights and still getting a pretty good pump, right? But to keep it simple, guys, for all of you beginners out there, if you are watching, is you just simply want to think about getting your fist to your shoulder, right? And then getting the opposite of that extreme, just getting a full extension. Beyond that, we can talk about working through various positions of flexion and varying the strength curve with different movements. But you got to think of that thing first, right? You know, just how can I work the muscle through the fullest range of motion as possible? And then think about being active the whole time. The other thing you might not have seen, or maybe you did notice, is that when I get down into that position, I'm thinking about setting my shoulders. So my shoulders are set and they're pinched behind me and nothing else is moving as I'm bringing those dumbbells down. So I'm set here. Nothing's going to be happening. So that's really important because we just want this to be working like a hinge. Just going in a straight line like this, right? Doing the tomahawk chop, that's it. You want to keep the movement simple, right? We're gonna go there on this set, right? So whether I get to the reps or not, the dedicated reps I'm supposed to be doing 10 and 10, 10 flexed, 10 neutral, I'm gonna extend the set. I'm just gonna take it further, right? So it doesn't mean we have to necessarily drop the weight to keep going, but say if I don't reach the 20 reps total, I can start to do partials. So I'm still moving, I still have time under tension. And when you get to the point where you're doing those partials, right? So it's like another tip for you guys to be implementing today. When you get to the point of doing those partials, still go through that bottom end of the motion. Like, so still go all the way down and still cater to the tempo that you're supposed to be using, right? So when I speak about tempo, for myself, I'm going at probably like a 3-0-1-0. 3 on the way down, 1 on the way up, 0 at the top, 0 at the bottom. So I want to sustain that even when I'm doing the extended set, right? So. All right, guys, so you notice I'm really trying to keep my body stable throughout this whole movement, right? So if you notice, on the reps, I'm trying on many of them to actually flex my tricep at the bottom and then come back up. So right here, I just switched. Now we have that neutral wrist. I can sense myself here that I'm not gonna be able to finish the set. I'm gonna start going into partial reps. And at that time, I still wanna go all the way down for the eccentric. See, I'm flexing my tricep at the bottom to get that full stretch. And keeping the muscle under as much tension as possible. So here, this is again is where we would call this an extended set. So add those into your arsenal, give that a whirl. What I'm gonna have here for you now is we're starting off with triceps again and then biceps. We're gonna do cable rope extensions, right? I'm gonna show you some variations of this, and this is where we are gonna work through the strength curve. So whether you're a beginner or you are more advanced, if you're gonna be trying this technique, I'm just gonna try and show you a few cue points that you can utilize when you do this, right? To work more the bottom of the tricep and then the belly of the tricep. So we can say it's just a little bit different, but at the end of the day, it's effectively working the entire muscle, which is really, really important. I found this really crucial to my training, as my arms for a long time were, not like they're my strongest body part now, but they were much smaller than the rest of me. So I had to really work hard to bring them up. And what I found is I was really shortening myself on a lot of movements. So this here, what I'm about to show you, has been really effective. So that's exercise number 1, right? We're gonna be doing rope tricep extensions, 2 variations in the strength curve. And then the next exercise, we're gonna be doing some rope curls. So to really hit that radiobrachialis, right? And then the bicep just differently, right? So if you notice, when my hand is supinated like this, you can see how the bicep is shortened. And then right away, just by doing that, we can see how that changes that, right? So right? See that happening? So we're gonna be playing with that a little bit. For me, that's a weak area of mine, so that's how I'm gonna implement this, right? So first part, I'm gonna have you standing back, right? We're gonna be standing tall, right? Always assume that proper positioning first. So what I like to tell guys first is think about driving your elbows back, right? Almost like you're rowing. So now my elbows are set, right? So we talked about that before, setting your shoulders, setting your elbows, whatever it is. This is gonna be a bit heavy for me today because I'm feeling a little exhausted from our workout that we had before. But again, preset, so elbows are back. And now what I want you to think about is every time that your arms become 90 degrees-ish with the cable, that at that point is when the movement becomes the hardest. So you're gonna find this movement is the hardest at the bottom. We're gonna get a 1-2 pause at the bottom, right? So elbows are back, we're set, I'm keeping straight up. A lot of guys wanna do this. Stay here for today, right? Extend down, 1, 2, right? Hardest at this point. Okay guys, so you can see the set starting to wind down right now, and it may look like I'm not going through the fullest range of motion, right? But at the end of the day, when I go through these two parts of the movement, I am getting that full range of motion, right? Because now in this part of the movement, you'll see that I'm able to come all the way up, but eventually I'm only gonna be able to come to 90 degrees with that cable. And that's when the movement here is hardest, when I'm nice and close to the machine. So I go through the partials, extend the set, work the muscle entirely from end to end, and go to that exhaustion. All right guys, so on to the superset of this movement. We're supersetting these rope hammer curls. And again, I'm just going through that full range of motion and keeping that constant tension. So I'm trying to minimize my body movement, and notice that line with my elbow. The elbow is not moving. It stays in one spot. I'm basically trying to bring my fist to my shoulder. Just like when I'm working the tricep and going for the stretch, all the way up to my shoulder. For my bicep, that's peak contraction. So I want to come all the way up and then all the way down. And work through that, and work properly even through that exhaustion, guys. Don't be yanking on the weight. All right, guys, so the next two exercises we're gonna be doing is we're gonna do seated dumbbell overhead extensions with one dumbbell. So I'm gonna do them seated just to keep my body out of the equation. I'm really just trying to focus on the tricep, right? So that'll help, mobilize the rest of my body and just focus on the work at hand, the tricep. And then after that, we're gonna do some preacher curls, right? So 6 basic exercises today, but just, again, some hot cues that you can use. Just think about actually activating the muscle more so than just moving some weight. So we're gonna go into this next one. I'm actually pinching my shoulder blades together so that nothing else is moving. All right, the next thing that I'm doing is, if you look at the dumbbell in relationship to my hands, I'm trying as hard as I can to keep that dumbbell vertical, right? So straight up and down on the way down and on the way up. So you'll notice that my hand is actually cupping the dumbbell, if you will. I'm getting that bend as I go down in the movement to, I guess, rather absorb that weight. A couple things are happening with that. I guess the biggest thing, the most notable thing, is that I'm able to get a bigger stretch. You'll see on that last rep, I went down real far with it and I almost couldn't get it back up. So adding in some drop sets here towards the end of the workout, got a decent pump, right? So I'm just taking off small percentages, 5–10% of weight at a time, right? And trying to go through another 5 or so reps. So. Or less. All right, so get another drop set. Gonna try and punish these biceps. So notice how I'm keeping my shoulders in one spot. Nothing's moving except for that elbow joint, right? So we'll lock it down again. Sit. So I noticed my reps are getting a little bit short, so probably went a little bit too heavy. So I'm just adding in that extra stretch at the end, right? So an intraset stretch, I guess, if you will, just to build up some more lactic acid and still get a lot of work done. You know, even though I'm feeling a little bit exhausted today, you can still maximize the set, right? Doesn't mean I have to move a lot of weight. So we'll do the same thing on this set. Go through that full range, peak contraction. Again, you'll notice that I'm not moving a whole lot of weight today. I got a pretty decent pump, right? I'm really just going for keeping the muscle under tension today. So it's time under tension, I guess, if you will. You'll notice that my eccentric is generally slower. A lot of you guys know these basic principles, but I think it's a matter of just being in control of the exercise and the workout the entire time, right? And also avoiding many of the cheats that happen and start to using the shoulders, rocking the body, heaving weights up, right? Remember, the goal here of trying to build bigger arms, you know, when you're trying to build more muscle, it's just that. It's not to move more weight, right? So if I was a power lifter or if I was an Olympic lifter, I'd want to make it more efficient, but that's not the case. I get it, I appreciate it. I even have a CrossFit gym here. I own one. Get that, eh? A bodybuilder that owns a CrossFit gym. But it's because I understand it. I appreciate it for what it is. And when it comes to building muscle, you have to consider that it's not making things more efficient. In fact, the whole time we're trying to make it harder, right? So even with the lighter weights today, I was able to make it significantly harder. So how did I do that? Some things you guys can take from it is the intraset stretches that we did right at the end. We did some drop sets today. We also avoided cheating, right? All those things are gonna make a huge difference. The other thing is as simple as it sounds, is actually thinking about the move and actually flexing hard, right? So, I mean, do it for me right now. If you were to actually sit there and flex your bicep to the point of where it's cramping, you're not using any weight, right? But you're effectively flexing that muscle and recruiting all the muscle fibers within to the best of your ability. So imagine if you're doing that actively in an exercise, right? So there's no more of just going through the motions and just going through the paces, right? So when you're looking at programs and these, you know, you see these cookie cutter programs and it says, you know, do this exercise for 3 sets of 10, right? Do this for X amount of reps or sets. Well, it's not enough, right? And I think that you can see that today just with some of these cues that I've given you. And understanding that if I gotta align myself, I gotta keep my joint, you know, working through that plane of motion. I gotta make sure that I'm going through the full range of motion. And then if I'm looking to get extra work involved, it doesn't have to be more weight, that I can, you know, use some of these intensifiers, I guess, if you will, right? So take some of those tips with you guys today. And next we'll talk about some carb stuff. So let's get into that. All right, awesome guys. So I'm glad you guys followed me through the workout, right? So today wasn't my strongest workout, but again, it wasn't about that. It's just about adding some value to you guys, getting a little bit of a pump for myself. Again, it's been, I think it's 10 days since I've had my child, so I might have mentioned that in the beginning. I don't remember, I'm so tired. But the point is for me, I had to get some movement in, and I just want to be productive with my time. I knew I wasn't going to feel strong today, and I'm also, in the beginning, I also talked about how I'm adjusting my carbohydrates based on the week that I've had, right? So I was eating carbs constantly, because of my in-laws, right? Ecuadorian food, everything's soup, potatoes, rice, pollo, right? Chicken. So I just overloaded. I was starting to get a little bit of a spillover. And as I mentioned before, you can't build muscle without the nutrition. We know that. We know that they cannot exist without each other, right? So that's where today I not only wanted to talk to you about how to build bigger arms faster, right? So it's just basically being more effective with your time, being time efficient. But also the nutrition side of it. So let's bust a couple carb myths that are very common to you and thousands of other people in the fitness industry, right? So we could probably put these two together, but number one would be that you should probably taper your carbohydrates towards the end, right? We hear that all the time, right? So eat most in the morning, taper them off towards the evening so that you're not having this high octane fuel running through your system at nighttime, right? Because you're not going to be burning it off because you're not doing activity. So that's number one. The next one, number two, would be to only eat carbs in the morning because that's when you're most insulin sensitive, or to eat them after your workout because that's when you're most insulin sensitive. Well, let's take a look at both of these, and I'll try and give you guys a few tips that you can take away today to get just an understanding of yourself and maybe how this might apply to you and how you can conquer these myths, right? So if you think about the whole idea of carbohydrates, let me just break this down to you. Let me give you a couple pointers. So write this down. You are always burning fat, but The question is, are you always mobilizing fat, and when are you? And do you need to? So how do I know, right? And how do I do that? Well, just know this. The moment that you get you ingest carbohydrates and you get your insulin fluctuated high enough in your system, you're shutting off, or you're turning on the insulin switch, and you're gonna stop mobilizing fat at that point, right? So my question to you is this here. So what is your body fat percentage at right now? Are you a male that's above 12%? Are you a female that's above 20%? If you are, and your goal is, right, so these two things so far, these 2 pointers, what's my body composition, what's your goal? If your goal is to lose fat, then you have to consider to yourself, am I doing that very effectively today? So, the other thing is, if I know that when I ingest carbohydrates, I'm gonna stop mobilizing fat, well, when am I doing that, right? So, this goes back to those myths. Ingest your carbs in the morning, right, and have them taper off towards the end of the day. Well, if you're that guy or that girl that wants to be burning a lot of fat and doing it fast, and say you're working out in the afternoon, the midday, after work, right? Wouldn't you rather be burning and mobilizing fat all day long? I think we would, right? If that's my goal, right? So how do I do that? Again, well, don't turn on your insulin switch, right? Keep it off, keep it tapered down, right? So avoid those carbohydrates that are gonna be doing that. Right? So another tip is, people are like, well, how do I do that, Matt? How do I get away? I'm gonna feel like crap. Well, you will if you don't follow some other key protocols, right? So if you're taking out one macro, you're also, you're taking out carbohydrates, but you're also lowering your calories. You may not need to do that. It might just be the type of calories. So add in more fats, get more good fats in, okay? So we can talk more about that, but I have a report for you that you can get some of those tips on later, right? So now, what do I do with those carbohydrates? Well, consider this as your next point. Taking your carbohydrates at the most opportune time as well. So if you are if you're to the point, let me start over. If you're at that point now where you're burning fat all day and you're also mobilizing fat all day, and you're that guy or gal that's the guy that's above 12%, the lady that's above 20%, then what I would consider doing is eating your carbohydrates after your workout, right? Burn and mobilize fat all day. Right, so that's something I want you to consider. Also take in this right now. Just back off all this information for a second and write these 3 things down, right? So before you start worrying about anything with the carbohydrates. Number 1, what is your goal? Are you trying to build muscle? Are you trying to burn fat? Are you trying to perform better? Or are you trying to feel better, right? Okay, so ask yourself that. What is your goal? Number 2, right? You should ask yourself, what is the type of activity that I'm doing, right? So if I'm a marathon runner, or if I compared to a guy that's a powerlifter or a bodybuilder, we have very different goals. Our energy needs are gonna be far different, right? And then the next one is to imagine, well, what's your body composition right now? Because that's gonna dictate a lot. So we talked a little bit about an insulin sensitivity, and you might be asking yourself, well, am I insulin sensitive? Well, let me tell you this. The leaner that you are, the more insulin sensitive you are. So write that down. The leaner that you are, the more insulin sensitive you are, right? So let's go to that marathon runner. They're like 7% body fat, right? They're probably gonna be very insulin sensitive. That person can probably afford to eat carbs all throughout the day, and they're probably gonna need to, right? Because they're a fat burning machine, right? They don't even have enough body fat resources to go to. So if they're running that marathon, they're gonna bog out. Hence, that's why they have their intra workout, intra run drinks that you see them getting and pouring down their face as they're running, right? But if you're that guy or that gal, that guy that's trying to build muscle, build those bigger arms, and your body fat percentage is above 12%, pretty much like where I'm at today. I got some abs showing, but I'm not sliced, right? So I was able to avoid the carbohydrates today and ingest them afterwards at the most opportune time. So that way my body is burning fat and mobilizing fat all day, all right? So I hope that makes sense to you. So again, know those 3 things. What's your goal? Okay, write that down again. What's your goal? What's your current activity level? And then what's your body composition? Those are 3 things you need to consider before you start altering your carbohydrates. I have a whole bunch more information on this. And again, I have a report on the 7 ridiculous carb myths that are killing your gains. And not only do I have that report on that I've done some research and whatnot on, I also have 10 hot tips that you can take today and you can start implementing as action items into your daily routine, right, for your nutrition. And you can start to ask yourself, okay, now how do these things apply to me? So the other thing you need to know walking away from today is that there is no one size fits all diet. Okay, there's just not. workouts change because of the demands that we put on our body. And as our bodies change, they demand different things, right? So let me just use one more example here as it's coming off the top of my head. Imagine if I was on a one-size-fits-all diet, right? And I'm saying, I'm supposed to have X amount of carbs today. I'm supposed to have 150 grams of carbs today. I'm gonna spread those out over, X amount of meals, maybe equally, or maybe I'm gonna base it around my workout, right? But today, say I have my arm workout. You guys saw it, there's 6 exercises. It was okay, it's a little bit of volume, some extended sets, not too crazy, right? But then tomorrow, I got a 90-minute leg workout, like long breaks, everything's extended, huge volume, lots of workout density. Would I want to eat the same amount of carbohydrates on my arm day as I would on my leg day, right? That would be a one-size-fits-all diet. I'm not really catering to the needs at hand. So this is where you need to start, and this is where I'm here to help you, is to start customizing your diet, your carbohydrates to your needs, right? So again, pick up that report. It's either going to be right here, right? So you can just click on that link above, or if you're on your mobile, then you can also go down to the link below, or on your desktop, it doesn't matter. So we'll have that there, just click on, all you gotta do is just drop your first name, give us your email, and we're gonna send it to you right away, all right? So we're not gonna spam your email. I'm here just to add value. So I really thank you guys today for, tuning into the channel, watching this the whole way through. Hopefully I added some value to you today. And then next to that too, give me a thumbs up, right? Give me a thumbs up, give me a hell yeah if you like this. And then in the comments below, also let me know what else you would like to hear from me, right? I got lots going on here over the next 125 days. I'm preparing for the Musclemania Worlds, right? So it's kind of exciting. You're gonna see my body change and alter as we go through this. And I want you to be a part of that. I want you to see how I'm going to implement the very things that I'm giving you to you today, and we're going to make these tried, tested, and true. We're going to make this real, all right? And I'm going to show you how I'm changing this as I go through this whole process. So it's going to be pretty cool. So I want you to stay with me. I want you to try some of these things yourself. It's going to be different for you than it is for me because we're not at the same place. Maybe we are, maybe we're not, right? But again, leave your comments below on what you like today, and then also what more you would like to learn about, right? Because that's how we can add more value to you. So again, thanks for tuning in today. Subscribe to the channel as well, right? And then that way you're gonna get the instant, what am I trying to say? I need some carbohydrates. You're gonna get the updates on my latest videos, right? And then we'll stay in touch. Thanks for coming out today.